60 Minutes Rewind.
A rare famine emergency has been declared in the youngest nation on earth. South Sudan in East Africa was brought into the world in 2011 with the help of the United States. But it's one of the world's least developed countries, and now civil war has left it destitute. 5 million people don't know where their next meal is coming from, and of them, 100,000 are facing death. Holding off a catastrophe is the mission of the UN's World Food Program. The WFP was an American idea created in 1961, and the U.S. is still the largest donor. Now WFP has launched one of its largest rescues ever, but in South Sudan, too many people are fighting for life. Josephine is 7 and down to 24 pounds. Hunger left her at the mercy of disease, and now she's being consumed by tuberculosis. This is why TB used to be called consumption. Josephine's mother shooed away the 90 degrees, waiting to be seen by Dr. Moroni Abraham. How long would a child be in this hospital?
Typically, a child will be staying between 2 to 3 weeks.
Why so long?
Because the body is already altered. The function is altered. The anatomy is altered. So it will take days, very slowly, to get back to the original form.
Solid food could kill them. Nutrition must be reintroduced through milk-based formulas. The twins were 4.5 pounds at birth, and even after days here, they were still less than half their normal weight.
He was critically ill, severely dehydrated, not able to feed, and hopefully will probably reach 3 kilograms in the coming 2 to 3 weeks.
Which would be 6.5 pounds or so.
Yes.
The clinic in South Sudan's capital is operated by an American charity, the International Medical Corps. Dr. Abraham was one of 2 doctors for up to 55,000 people, compressed into squalid camps, stalked by disease. A place so much better than where they came from. We headed to the violent region Josephine escaped. In a nation as big as Texas, in one of the world's largest swamps, there is only one paved road outside the capital. In the wet season, people in half of South Sudan are marooned. Sudan was Africa's largest nation, ruled from Khartoum by people of Arab heritage. In the south, African tribes have rebelled since the 1950s, and millions have died. In a quest for peace, the Bush administration started a humanitarian and diplomatic campaign. $11 billion went into aid and to train a South Sudanese government and security force. 5 years ago, there was hope. Khartoum no longer ruled over them, and beneath them, there was oil.
They voted almost unanimously, 99%, to create their own state, to carve the South Sudan out of Sudan. And within 2 years, it had crumbled into a full-scale war.
John Prendergast witnessed the stillbirth of a nation. He was an Africa specialist in the Clinton White House and now leads the Enough Project, which works for peace on the continent. People living where we are now have really never known peace.
And it isn't just war. Mass atrocities are committed with regularity, almost become routine. Slave raiding, aerial bombing, rape as a tool of war, child soldier recruitment, all the worst of the war crimes in the Geneva Conventions are perpetrated regularly in South Sudan and have been throughout the series of wars since the independence of Sudan in the 1950s.
In 2013, the leaders of independent South Sudan's 2 main ethnic groups, the Dinka and the Nuer, went to war over oil and power.
You can't find a road that's been built. You can't find a sewer that's been constructed. You can't find, very rarely can you find a school that's actually been as a result of government investment. The health clinics are bare. Money disappears.
Stolen.
Just stolen.
We found no sign of that wealth in a village called Mayom. Thousands of people crowded behind a white strip, compelled by the promise of food. They had reached the finish line of a day-long trek through killing fields and drowning land.
They've survived the War of Independence. They've survived 2 years of civil war. Many of them have been displaced. The level of orphan children is just staggering, must be one of the highest in the world here in South Sudan.
This was an emergency food distribution run by Peter McKay for the World Food Program. Tell me about the orphans.
You will meet women who will have half a dozen children of their own, for example. They will have been displaced 4 or 5 times from their locations. They will have 5 or 6 children of other women who have died or disappeared during the conflict. The husbands of all of those women have been killed in the fighting. That is a terrible legacy for this country.
Hope arrived at 700 feet and 190 miles an hour. 33 tons of food scattered in the sky and cratered the earth like a volley of mortars. The WFP has chartered most of the commercial cargo planes in the world that are rigged for dropping food. As this crew turned for a second run, they readied boxes of fragile cans of cooking oil, each labeled with an American flag. We lashed a camera on one. Manna from heaven by parachute. The World Food Program hired what men it could find to heave the cargo. Each bag 110 pounds, each man not much more. It's 352 paces from the drop zone. The mud held them up and the heat beat them down, but they shouted, "Keep going." We noticed their eyes, fixed on a place beyond want. They had seen hunger in their children, and so anger, fear, and will moved a mountain. What you see here is about half of one plane load. And each plane load will feed 1,600 people for 30 days. Now, that seems like a lot, except the town of Mayom has 50,000 people who need food. So it's going to take 27 airdrops.
The story will continue after this.
The South Sudan emergency response costs $1.5 million a day. We watched that crowd yesterday wait all day for those airdrops.
Right.
And at the end of the day, some of those people left with nothing.
I had to personally reassure several people, don't worry, more food is coming, the planes will keep coming.
Owen Davies and Brian Langdon are from New York. They lead a WFP team that arrives weeks before the airdrop. They gather every member of every family to register for a ration card.
We have to have everybody show up so we know that, the food isn't being misdirected or misused.
What do you mean by that?
You might have a situation where if you dropped, 100 metric tons of food, you don't know how it's being distributed. It might be distributed to their friends. It might get diverted to another community entirely. They might start charging for it. So really the goal is to reduce that by putting it in the hands of every individual household.
The ration card is supposed to be a guarantee, which prevents panic at the drop zone. But after we left Mayom, the fighting erupted again. The airdrops stopped, and 7,000 left with little or nothing. 3 million South Sudanese have been forced from their homes. Some can be reached by water. And the WFP pushed 200 tons of grain through a papyrus swamp called the Sud, Arabic for the barrier. The destination is a refugee camp called Minkaman, about 2 years ago during the war, 70,000 people were stampeded from their homes and set up the camp. And then in early 2016, there was more fighting and another 30,000 people joined them. 100,000 people in desperate need of food. It can cost $150 to deliver one bag by plane, but as little as $21 by boat. It is more dangerous, but Sean Hughes, who showed us the WFP's operation, said his budget is falling far behind.
Right now, food assistance is the only thing that stands between hundreds of thousands of people and absolute catastrophe. There are 4.8 million people across this country that are very severely food insecure and in need of assistance. We're reaching on a monthly basis just over 2 million.
You're reaching half the people who are in need.
Yes.
Half until the war intervenes. This was the World Food Program warehouse filling up for the emergency. But the week after we were there, a militia looted everything. $20 million in food and vehicles gone. Several humanitarian organizations think of South Sudan as too dangerous a place to work.
There are certainly risks. There are a lot of risks to the security of our staff. I've personally lost colleagues working for WFP while I've been working here.
And yet it's worth it to press on.
There are millions of lives that depend on us continuing to do our work. So we will take every measure that we can to keep our staff safe. But our commitment is very much with the people of South Sudan.
That's a commitment the 100,000 people at our destination could not live without. Hoisting those same 110-pound bags like the men, the women were lean from hunger, but stronger for fighting it. Let me ask you, Mother, what does this food mean to you? This sustains me and keeps me healthy, she said. And to the people who sent you this food, you say what? To the people who are helping us, we're in a war zone that's hard to reach. We need everything: food, clothes, plastic sheets to cover my hut, and hose for farming. For Josephine and the twins we met earlier, food has been enough. This is Josephine now, 42 pounds, up from 24. And the twins are up to 13 pounds each. Where does it go from here?
Door number one, which most people expect, is that these leaders, the competing factions, the kleptocrats that are running this country, will keep doing what they're doing. Door number two is a less likely scenario, but not impossible. And that is that the leadership here, because of international pressure, because of the citizenry's demands for peace, will start to make decisions that are at least a little more in the broader public interest than just their own pocketbooks. And so that's the kind of future that I think every South Sudanese wants to see.
For now, they just hope to see another plane. Each sack of food will carry 3 people for 30 days. But there is no guarantee that there will be another.